Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. This morning, January 28th, 2018, we're looking at 10 High Kentucky blended whiskey, introduced in 1930. Was it 1935? I can't remember. Something like that. Not important, but it's been around for decades and decades. Versus Redemption High Rye Bourbon. Now, I know that was 2010, so not even a decade ago. Nice bottle with a embossed grain sprig. The Redemption across the top. There's three regular versions: Redemption Rye, Redemption Bourbon, Redemption High Rye, and then there's all these specialty long year aged versions, aged longer than the company's been around. Now you might say, well, how could they have been aging stuff before they were Redemption? Actually, Redemption's owned by another company, but before Redemption got started, well, hold on a second. Tax and Trade Bureau. I want to look up something for your information. Here we go, distilled spirits. Well, what happened is this is not produced at the company's facilities because the company actually doesn't really have any facilities. It's produced at Midwest Grain. No, I don't want to do a survey. Midwest Grain Products in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So it says right here, distilled in the Indiana Heartland, bottled by Redemption Barrel Selections, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. That's Midwest Grain Products, formerly Seagram's Distillery. Been around since 1847. That particular facility. Let's see here. Trying to find this chart. And I know I'll be able to find it. I would have found it earlier. I hadn't thought about it. Let's see, spirits. Labeling, permits, tax and filing, importing, exporting, proofing, home distilling, retailers. Here we go. I think this is it. Here we go. Class and type designation. PDF file. That's chapter 4. All right. You'll see why in a moment why I'm doing this. So that's where it's sourced from. Just like so many bourbons, that one that's called 1776 and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the reason is because this company, Midwest Grain Products, formerly Seagram, the Seagram's Distillery, but whatever, Seagram's had it until 18 years ago, and then that company was divided up. They have a whole portfolio of different things you can buy from them. Like they'll have bourbon. You can buy this age, that age, high rye, low rye, whatever, weeded. You can buy gin. There's like, I think, 8 different classes of gin you can buy. So they basically tailor it for your preference. Okay. And so that's what's happening here. Thomas Lee says, hi, Ron. Hi, Thomas Lee. Welcome to the Taste Challenge. Dallas Cowboys says, good morning, my friend. Good morning to you. Angel Gutierrez says, good morning. Good morning, Angel. Angel, Angela. I can't say it. Shane Giggy says, good morning, Ron. Good morning, Shane. Angel. All right. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. First, we'll go back to 10 High. 10 High, 10 High. Sour mash. So this is a sour mash bourbon blended. Barton Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. That's where it's bottled. That's a bottling plant. Used to be a distillery, Glenmore Distilling, but it's a bottling plant today. Bardstown, Kentucky, and Los Angeles, California. That's the three places this could be bottled. Owensboro or Bardstown, Kentucky, and way out to Los Angeles, California. So if you bought this in Phoenix or you know, Fresno, California, it's probably coming from the bottling plant they own in LA. There's Hiram Walker on the bottle. His company is the one that started 10 High, but Hiram Walker was bought up by different people. Okay, now, but it says Kentucky bourbon whiskey, so it has to be distilled somewhere in Kentucky. We know that. That's part of their labeling requirements. If it's called Kentucky, then it's from there. Okay, you don't have to say it again later on the bottle. 51% straight whiskey, aged at least 36 months, and 49% grain neutral spirits, which is used for these blended whiskeys. Okay. So let me X out of that, but let me bring up the PDF file. Okay, I'm bringing that up for a reason. Okay, bourbon. There's a lot of controversy about bourbon. I got into it with, but it was a friendly argument. See, some people on the internet, you can't talk about things in a friendly way. It's either their way or they're going to unfriend you and then talk bad about you on other websites and other hangouts. Okay, that's the way that works with some people. It's sad because it shouldn't be that way, but I can't answer for other people's personality, right? I can only answer for mine. So I could disagree with people, you know, right? You know, no big deal. I'm not going to go like stalk their channel and put a thumbs down every time I see a video, which in my opinion, that would be like a sign of like some sort of demented thinking. But that's what other people do. That's not what I do. I'll watch videos. There's some people's videos I don't like, mainly because for various reasons based on, I don't think it's good. Like a 50-minute video that goes on and on that only maybe 10 minutes is about the beer. But I just don't watch it. It's not in my head all the time that I'm caught up thinking about this person's videos. Okay, but anyway, going on to this. So we got into an argument and they were saying Jack Daniels, they were talking about is Proof 66. You know, Proof 66 is like a big time, at least in my thinking, liquor review website, and they have their own Facebook page. And so they were talking about, you know, that scene in 1980s, The Shining, when Jack, not his name, he orders, Jack Nicholson orders a bourbon. He tells the guy at the bar in one of his dream sequences, he orders a bourbon, and the guy gives him a Jack Daniels. And they were saying, well, that's not correct because it's Tennessee whiskey. I said, wait, it is a bourbon. It's just marketed as a Tennessee whiskey. And then they told me I was wrong. And they said, no, because it's filtered, charcoal filter. I said, that's irrelevant to the legal definition of a bourbon, because if you read the legal requirements or the legal parameters, filtering does not play a part in that. So the filtering, whether it's before they barrel it, after they barrel it, charcoal filtered, chill filtered, it's irrelevant to being classified a bourbon. And we went back and forth, and then they finally said, they admitted I was right. Oh, you're right. Okay, but they didn't become my enemy. The point is, they didn't become my enemy and ban me from their channel and delete me from being able to review. That's the experience I've had with some other people that run. They call them groups, like, oh, this is a group about whiskey. But it isn't a group about whiskey, because they won't let you in if you don't go along with. I'm not talking about trolling behavior, like you get in there and you act rude and you call people stupid and stuff like that. Of course, you should be kicked out of a group, or you're intentionally doing posts to aggravate people. That, of course, everyone. No, I'm talking about they'll just ban you because they don't like you personally. That's not a real group, you see. A real group would be everybody can go in and they can make their opinions heard, and you don't have to like it, or you can like it. And that's how Proof 66 is. You write your review. Okay. People can agree or disagree. It's not about, oh, I don't like you, so you're out. They don't operate that way. And I don't operate that way. But some people operate that way. Good morning, Ron. Andy Wright says Sazerac has a lot of brands. You got that right. Frenemies are always fun. Staunch Risk indicated. Yeah, frenemies. Yeah. Shane Giggy, you're right about a lot of people had that argument. Yeah, if Jack Daniels is a bourbon, it is literally a bourbon. But let's go into the government's website, the Tax and Trade Bureau. You see, I don't make the law. I can have an opinion and say, well, I find Jack Daniels is too harsh or whatever. Well, that's fine. That's an opinion. That's not the law. Okay, the law decides what is a bourbon. So let's go here. Classes and types. This is www.ttb.gov/spirit/bam/chapter4.pdf. Whiskey. Spirits distilled from a fermented mash of grain at less than 95% alcohol by volume, 190 proof, having the taste, aroma, and characteristics generally attributed to whiskey. And you might notice that the U.S. government spells whiskey without an E, just like they do in Canada and Scotland, without an E. True story. There's no official way to spell whiskey. But they choose to spell it without the E. And bottled at not less than 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. So it has to be at least 80 proof to be whiskey. Now you get some of those flavored things like Jack Daniel's honey and all, they're not whiskey. They're liqueurs. That's another area. If you notice the bottle, it doesn't say it's a whiskey. It says it's a liqueur made with whiskey. Bourbon whiskey. So here we go, bourbon whiskey. Whiskey produced in the U.S., that would be United States, at not exceeding 80% alcohol by volume, 160 proof, from a fermented mash of not less than 51% corn, and stored at not more than 62.5% alcohol by volume, 125 proof, in charred new oak containers. This is the rule to be a bourbon. It's got to be produced in the United States. Can't be more than 80% alcohol by volume. But how many are that high? Not too many. From a fermented mash of not less than 51% corn. Well, it could be 100% corn, but then that would be more like corn whiskey. But it could be. It doesn't give a top number. It gives a bottom number. Must be at least 51% corn. And it can't be more than 100% proof when it's stored in the charred new oak containers. Notice something that they don't give an age. A lot of people say bourbon has to be aged at least 2 years. Not true. Straight bourbon has to be aged at least 2 years. Okay, that's why this Redemption Rye is called bourbon, but notice it doesn't say straight bourbon. And notice one thing else about this Redemption Rye. This will make people maybe turn up their nose to it. Okay, it's 60% corn. Fine. That makes it a bourbon. Bourbon is corn whiskey. All right. All right. 36% rye. So there's your high rye. And 4% barley. And aged in new charred oak barrels. You say, where's the age? Oh, turn to the back. Aged no less than 1 year. Wow, it's aged at least a year. 1 whole year in a barrel. Boy, could be more, but no less than 1. But it's probably 1. So you can learn if you study. Now let's go to straight bourbon whiskey. Straight bourbon is another class. There's 2 components to straight bourbon whiskey. Stored in charred new oak containers for 2 years or more. And then they give it in quotes, straight bourbon whiskey may include, doesn't have to include, may include mixtures of 2 or more straight bourbon whiskeys, provided all of the whiskeys are produced in the same state. So you could have a straight bourbon that could be using this bourbon from Louisville, Kentucky, and that bourbon from Bardstown, and they could be mixed, but they got to be from Kentucky. Now, if it comes in from a different state, can't be straight bourbon whiskey. Could be bourbon. Notice that the bourbon rule doesn't talk about different states being mixed, does it? Okay. Now, so this particular item falls under that section. Straight up, not straight bourbon, just bourbon. You say, what about 10 High? Because it's 49% grain neutral spirits. Yes. Which is made from corn usually. So that's unaged corn whiskey though, see. But let's go down. There's a section here called, you guessed it. Oh, you ought to read about light, something called light whiskey. Light whiskey has to be at least 160 proof, but less than 190 proof. Imagine that. It's got to be at least 80% alcohol, but no more than 95% alcohol. And stored in used or uncharred new oak containers. It gives you two options: used container, or it could be uncharred new oak light whiskey. Can you imagine how fiery that's got to be? No thanks. I don't think I want it. But going on. Here we go. Blended bourbon whiskey, also known as bourbon whiskey, a blend. Okay, two ways you could call it: blended bourbon whiskey, or you can call it bourbon whiskey, a blend. Got to be called one of those two things. Type: blended whiskey produced in the U.S. containing not less than 51% on a proof gallon basis, excluding alcohol derived. No, this is a little complicated. Not less than 51% on a proof gallon basis, excluding alcohol derived from added harmless coloring, flavoring, or blending materials. Okay, that's in parentheses. On a proof gallon basis, straight bourbon whiskey. So it's got to be at least 51% straight bourbon. Now the 49% can be the unaged corn whiskey, grain neutral spirits, vodka, whatever you want to call it. Vodka, by the way. Oh, and they talk about it right here: neutral spirits or alcohol. Spirits distilled from any material at or above 95% alcohol by volume, 190 proof, and if bottled at not less than 40% alcohol by volume. So any vodka has to be at least 80 proof, okay? And then they give two types: vodka and grain spirits. Vodka: neutral spirits distilled or treated after distillation with charcoal or other materials so as to be without distinctive character, aroma, taste, or color. Now, neutral grain spirits. Neutral spirits distilled from a fermented mash of grain and stored in oak containers. And that's what this is made with: grain neutral spirits. So the vodka has to be totally tasteless, colorless, and odorless. Doesn't say that about the grain neutral spirits though. It just says has to be from a fermented mash of grain and stored in oak containers. So when you start breaking it down, it'll start making sense to you, you see. But you got to study, and a lot of people don't want to study because it takes a while, right? So there are no guidelines about the E. What does that mean, the E? Oh, no, you're right, about the spelling. No, Okay, so this thing is made from 49% grain neutral spirits, which means odorless, tasteless, colorless spirits that are derived from grain. What grain? Corn, of course. And it's not supposed to have any colors or aroma or flavor. And it's aged in oak barrels. So where is the flavor coming from? The 51% straight bourbon whiskey. What straight bourbon whiskey? Well, if it's 10 high, you can almost guarantee it's very old Barton distillery, but we don't know that, but it probably is. Will I be able to tell these apart? Yeah, I think so, but it could be tough because here you got a 3-year aged versus a 1-year aged, so that could make a difference. Then you've got the different blend, and another thing is that Sazerac, you know this, Sazerac Sazerac whiskeys tend to be higher rye than average, so it could trip me up. Irish whiskey uses the E. Correct, says Shane. Correct, that's correct. But Scottish and Canadian don't, and neither does the U.S. government. Although in America, the American people say whiskey with an E, spell it with an E. So, well, it's one of those that can go either way, but we try to keep it. Some people will flip out on you if you use an E and you're not supposed to. They'll go crazy. Hey, you know, Scotch is not supposed to have an E. And you might just say, well, that was a mistake. I spelled it wrong. I'm not stupid. I just spelled it wrong. But they are quick to tell you, moron, idiot, imbecile. But you may be none of those things. You might have just spelled it wrong. There's the cork. Now look, this is $23 a bottle. Well, probably more like $24 a bottle. The 10 high is $9.99 a bottle. So if I'm paying more than double the amount, you would hope and pray that it would be more than double the flavor, right? And in quality, right? So here's this thing from Indiana. It better taste more than twice as good, right? But I got a feeling that's not going to be the case. But I don't know. I'm just presuming. I've never done a blind taste test with these two. Let's look at them. They look remarkably similar in color, you know, the gold, but you see the 10 high has all that haze in the sediment. It's not that filtered. Now, I've looked at other bottles of 10 high which were filtered, so I don't understand. And then I got that Alperson's Canadian, same thing. It's not that filtered. I don't know. I just don't know the story. What Sazerac's not too worried about filtering? I don't know. I just can't explain it. All right. Let's do the I'm gonna do the mixing so I don't know them apart from one from another. Oh, by the way, you might notice on this Tax and Trade Bureau website under whiskey, there's so many different blends. You could, then they got Scotch whiskey, blended Scotch whiskey, you know, so on and so on, Canadian whiskey. But you notice there's nothing that says Tennessee whiskey. That's a state law of Tennessee. That is not a law anywhere else. Okay, that's a marketing tool. All Tennessee whiskey is bourbon sold as Tennessee whiskey. Do I have a hang up or a problem with that? No, I do not. Okay, it's Tennessee whiskey. It's good. What is Tennessee whiskey? A type of bourbon as defined by the law of Tennessee. I don't live in Tennessee. I'm not under their law, so I call it what I want. But you got some people, they'll flip out on you. They'll go crazy. Become unwrapped if you bring that up. It's like, why would you get angry about that? It's the truth. You don't like the truth bothers you, or you just high strung, you know, like wound too tight, you know, like Chef. He was wound too tight for Vietnam, but in his case, he was probably wound too tight for New Orleans, like Captain Willard said. Okay. All right. Here we go. Not looking. Oh, the next one I'm going to do is the early times. It would be a bourbon. It's made according to every bourbon guideline, save for one. It's no longer aged in new charred oak barrels. They use used barrels, so it cannot qualify as a bourbon. It's just simply a Kentucky whiskey. A blend of straight whiskeys too, by the way. They don't use grain neutral spirits in it. So, well, you know, I think that one will be a little easier than this, but let's go on. And then I'll do Jack Daniels and then Jack Daniels Green Label. And then, but you know what? Before I get into all those, I might need to do Very Old Barton. Yeah, let me do Very Old Barton after I do the early times. After. So we'll do early times, then Very Old Barton, then we'll go through all the others. How about that? That sounds like a good idea to me. Okay, here we go. This is sweet, sugary, as that website I'm referring you to right now calls it an aroma commonly associated with whiskey. Actually, a whiskey has to smell like whiskey. You can't have a whiskey that smells like tequila. They even have guidelines for mixed drinks. I told you all that before. You can look on there. It tells you legally now, a Tom Collins must be this way. How on earth they could enforce that? It would obviously be impossible. Oh, okay. Here we go. Woo! This is going to be a tough thing. All right. Now, look, I went to Mass yesterday at 4, all right? I don't have to rush to go today. It was at 4 o'clock in Belle Chase, Louisiana. That's a long way, but I'm trying to go to everyone in the New Orleans area. And Belle Chase, since Plaquemines Parish abuts, is adjacent to Orleans Parish, then I got to go, you see. So I went all the way down Belle Chase Highway, Louisiana Highway 23. I said, boy, this is something. Now this one here, okay. All right, bear with me. There's a little spice and there's some candy sweetness in that commonly associated with whiskey aroma. It's very mellow and it's minty and mentholated. I wonder if all Tennessee whiskey is sour mash. I know most of it is, but I don't know about all. That's a good question, you know. Doesn't have to be sour mash to be a bourbon now, does it? There's nothing in those guidelines about sour mash. That's just an option for cooking. You know what I mean? Now this one over here is more pungent. Almost you could say, and this is obviously not correct, but like an olive oil aroma. And it, you know, it's not that, but it's some kind of, it's not the wood. Now they both have the wood. It's like a oregano. I don't know. It's a strange herbal. Yeah, that's what it is. An herbal character, which I cannot describe properly. But I know this much. Either way the cut goes on these two, you're going to get some pretty complex aromatics. Now you might say, oh, 10 high, $9.99 a bottle. You're stupid. I hate you. Well, you could say that, but I know what I'm smelling, and it does have complex aromatics, and I don't know which one is which at this point, so. There's a lot of wood. And char, I think. I don't know which is which, but I think this might be 10 high, but I don't want to glance down. I got to taste it, but I think this is 10 high, and I think that's the redemption, but I don't know. I am not sure at all. So as far as aroma goes, it's a tie now. So that means 10 high wins. $9.99 or $22.99, $23.99. Okay, but we don't buy the whiskey to smell it, right? I mean, it's fun to do that, but you got to drink it. So it's a drink. It's not a perfume. So Oh, by the way, Aqua Velva came out 101 years ago. Just thought you need to know that. Aqua Velva, the original musk flavor, hit the market 101 years ago. And then somebody on Facebook was like, Aqua Velva, ugh. Or he was saying something like it was bad or something. And then my father said, I use it every day. He didn't know what to say then. It was like, you're not going to make my father mad over internet stuff. Believe me. If you think you're going to make my daddy angry over Facebook, you better go and try to do something else, because I can promise you he doesn't care. He's the guy that tries to make everybody mad. Like if I do a beer review or a post, he'll say, oh, that's just urine drain, horse urine drained through a dirty sock. Is he saying that because he truly believes it? No, he's just trying to irritate people. And it works. Okay, do I get angry? No, I just delete the comment. Or I delete the whole post. I don't keep things posted more than a day anyway. Comic books, they're up 24 hours and they drop. The car, well, yeah, I keep the cars posted in that little gallery, but I don't keep them on the timeline. I don't need to have every Buick since 1946 on my timeline. That doesn't need to be there. Okay. They're both very rye oriented, okay? But the one over here is more rye oriented, so it's got to be the, it's got a stronger peppery note. Ooh. It's got to be redemption, okay? I keep saying okay. I keep saying okay. You really got to know what you were doing to drink that Aqua Velva, or so I'm told by my wino buddy. It says BLF 450. I wouldn't know. I don't drink it. I just put it, I put some on my neck. All right. I can see the cars on the well, it is an interstate highway, really, because it goes all the way to Minnesota, but on US Highway 61, you can, well, it's becoming daylight now, but sometimes you can see them going up and down. That's how close I live to that major highway. True story. It goes from New Orleans all the way to north of St. Paul, Minnesota. It keeps going. Then it becomes State Highway 61 into Canada. And it's the King's Highway, Ontario Highway 61, the King's Highway. They have a crown on the sign. I saw that when I was in Canada. The King's Highway. Okay, the 10 High has a nice and relatively strong rye component. So if you like rye spice, I think you'd like 10 High. But I was talking about the blended whiskeys yesterday, whether they're Canadian or American, it doesn't seem to matter. They have that, it's almost like there's a ball. Let's say it's like a ball here, a half of a sphere. You're tasting. This is the way I describe the taste. There's a ball of bulk. It's like a bulk in the flavor, a filler, a base. It has no flavor. All the flavor and the aroma comes on the outer edge of the ball, like say the crust. So the mantle is just odorless, tasteless, and neutral. The flavors seem to come around the edges of these blended whiskeys. So what I mean is there's no depth of flavor. There's no depth of flavor. From what I can tell, they have flavor. Now, for somebody to say, oh, blended whiskey has no flavor, it's bum drink, it's a garbage whiskey, that's not true. That is a dishonest statement. It has flavor. Now, whether it's good or not, that's up to you. But the flavors are on the perimeter. You see, there's no depth of flavor. So if you're drinking a straight whiskey, like let's say Jack Daniels, which is a blend of straight whiskeys, I might add. Oh, I'm sorry. They say they don't blend their whiskey. They mingle it, whatever you want to call it. It has a depth of flavor, though. You may not like the flavor. Some people say it tastes like airplane glue. I don't know what they talk, plastic and airplane glue. I think they're crazy. But there's a depth all the way from the top of the sip to the bottom. It's not just around the sip, but the top to the bottom. So even evenly, so there's a depth of flavor. But with the blended, there's only a perimeter of flavor. So that's where the difference comes in. I hear that, says BLF 450. Okay, so now this is the 10 high, and that's the redemption. I'm going to check in a minute, but I know I'm right. I hope I'm right, but I know I am. Okay. See, they have that depth of flavor. There's not that mantle, that interior bulk filler. And the filler doesn't taste bad. It just doesn't taste. There is none. You get the same thing with the adjunct lagers, American adjunct lagers or ales like Valentine. They have flavor. Now, these people say, oh, it's just urine water and all that. That is not true. But there's that, like I say, that mantle, that interior of vacancy, if you want to call it, because it's all filler. And in the adjuncts, the corn or rice, and in some cases, we did an examination yesterday. It's going to be posted in a few days of the Hurricane High Gravity. They use corn and rice, but they're not supposed to taste like corn nor rice. It's just supposed to taste like nothing. It's supposed to serve the same purpose as the grain neutral spirits, a filler. Okay. Now that's not that hard to understand. Okay. Why that would be difficult to understand, I don't know. It's a filler. Okay. Whether for good or ill, you may love it, you may hate it, or in my case, like with me, you may be indifferent to it. But that's the purpose of it, okay? No. So which one's better? Okay. I'm starting to get some beeswax and some dried flowers, which is a good sign in my opinion. And the charred wood and the high rye. Okay. All right. Now, last call. You get those things here. You get the dried flowers. You get the candied fruit. You get the rye. Definitely rye. Rye. And in isolation, I would pick up the sourdough bread that you get from, that I think you get from sour mash whiskey. Some people say it doesn't change the taste. I don't agree with that. Same thing when I'm just talking about the adjuncts. I find that rice lagers like Budweiser and Asahi are so easily noticeable or distinguishable from the corn-filled lagers. It just tastes different now. Now you might say, oh, well, you just must have a better palate than the dang people at the brewery, huh? I just must have that, because I can tell the difference. A really nice product here, the 10 High. What are my complaints? Nothing. I got no complaints whatsoever. It's a little strange with the haze and the chunk, you know, the particulate matter, but it doesn't taste bad. Would I recommend it? I would recommend it without any hesitation. Okay, it's different from 80 years ago when it was 90 proof and it was there was a 10 High bourbon, but I think there was always a 10 High blend, just like Ancient Age. There was always a bourbon, always a blend. Okay. The Redemption has a more depth of flavor, even though it's only aged a year. But the question is it better? Is it better? You could say that, but I wouldn't necessarily go along with that. I think they're different. They're different, but I don't know about better. So I would not. No, I would not pay $24 for that when I could get this for $9.99. I'm sorry. That could upset some people, but oh, I mean, yeah, I would recommend buying the Redemption Rye to try it. I wouldn't go higher than 24 bucks though. I saw it for 26 yesterday and I said I wouldn't pay that much. 24 is pushing it. It's pushing it because the payoff isn't really matching up. It's like Jack Daniels. You're not getting a payoff. You're buying the name. Now, if you want to pay for the name, that's your business. With this, you're paying for the fancy bottle and the cork, and it's pretty. I mean, you know, there's something to be said for aesthetics. So if you're going to a party and you bring this, people are going to say, oh boy, you know, that's beautiful. If you show up with this, they might say, what the hell? You know, I mean, because they're going to say, that looks like some inexpensive thing. Well, that's what it is. That's why it looks like that. And it's using that standard Sazerac bottle. I mean, you can find 50 different liquors that are going to have that same Sazerac bottle, that little bubbled bottom, in that smooth cylindrical bottle with the top. I mean, I think Miles Gin is the same bottle. I saw Miles Gin yesterday. Almost pulled the trigger on it, but I said no. That London Dry Gin, same bottle. Just put different labels on it. Same, you know. So, okay, I'm going to say 10 high, and it's, all right. The redemption wins by a nose. But you got to pay half a torso for it relative to the 10 high. So it's up to you. If you want to pay 24 bucks for a whiskey that wins by a nose over one that's $9.99, I say go for it. I mean, I bought them, right? Here they are. I bought them. I didn't get them for free. Some people claim, I won't name his name. I want to name his name, but I went to confession yesterday. Okay. I told the priest, sometimes I talk about other people, but not too much lately, but I do. But okay. He was saying, oh, you go beg companies for beer. I say, who did I beg for beer? Well, of course, he never has an answer. Who? Nothing, no answer. No, I bought it, okay? Just like normal, I buy it. Would I like companies to send me free stuff? Yeah, I'd like it, but it doesn't really happen. Paul Honor did, but that was, what, 2 years ago? I haven't heard anything from any of these companies. I think the reason was they sent me free stuff and I wasn't universally like adoring it. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, well, it's pretty good. But I gave them fair warning because before they sent the stuff, I told them, I said, I'm not going to just be over there bragging on it because you sent it. Like Rogue sent me stuff and I said some things they didn't like. So I never heard from them again. Well, you know, hey, you came to me. I didn't come to you. But I'm still part of the Rogue Nation. So I think as being part of a nation, I can speak for that nation, right? If I'm part of a nation, I have a voice in the nation. So I'm, in some ways, a spokesman for the nation, right? Okay. Now you say, well, that's largely an honorary title. Get on the website. Nowhere on there does it say being part of the Rogue Nation is a largely honorary title. It says you're part of the nation. Okay, so I'm part of the nation. Shane Giggy said, I wonder if you never knew the prices before you went into these, would your opinion be different? It might be, but how would you go about that? I mean, it's not possible. And secondly, I do mix them up as best I can. So I'm trying to, right, eliminate as many variables as I can to be fair. Because like I said, I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care who wins. Some people think I care, like they think there's like a secret plot where I do these videos and I like intentionally try to pick the cheaper bourbon because I got like some fixation on cheap stuff. But that is not so. Okay, 10 high. So it was very obvious. I really thought that within 10 seconds. Now you say, oh yeah, you're just trying to make a claim of being a great expert. No, I'm not. But literally, as soon as I smelled them, I thought that's 10 high. This is redemption. I was reluctant to say it because I said, what if I'm wrong? I'm going to look foolish on, you know, live hangout. But which one do I like them both? So hey, now I think the early times versus redemption is not going to be much of a challenge at all because early times is first not particularly rye oriented or oriented. Secondly, the early times Yeah, it's kind of dull in a way. Tastes good though, but it's kind of dull. And you know, it's even cheaper than 10 High. Early Times is $8.99 a bottle, $8.99 a bottle. I'm serious. The 10 High is $9.99. And there's so many Early Times variants that Brown-Forman does not list on their website. The apple, what do they have? Like Early Times. I think I even saw like a pumpkin, some weird thing like that for Halloween. They have the Early Times. What do you call it for Christmas? The eggnog. Same thing with Benchmark, but don't ever try to find it on the internet, on the website. You'll never find it. Benchmark eggnog, but it exists. I saw it. It's there. You can believe it or not believe it. And it's the same thing with Early Times. I think they have a cinnamon version, you know, that Red Hots version. Would I ever buy it? No, indeed. But I bought the Early Times, you know, hey, it's good. It's $8.99 a bottle, and that's about what it should be. It always was a cheap bourbon, now a non-bourbon. But it never was bad. Oh, Dancing Dog says, good morning, Ron. Good morning, Dancing Dog. By the way, I tried to taste test Tecate versus Modelo, and I failed. Wow, I'm a little surprised because I find Tecate has a distinctive corn tortilla taste. And I mean in a good way, you know, like that rich corn tortilla. Oh, I love Tecate. I swear I need to go run get Tecate right now. So Tecate wins price-wise. Oh, yeah, Tecate is cheaper. You could get a 12-pack, a good $2 less than Modelo, if it's not more. But Tecate tastes better than Modelo, in my opinion. Tastes better. And Negra Modelo, don't even get me started on that. My friend David, he loves Modelo, so I think we're going to do that as a regular beer coming up because he's got a lot to say about Modelo. Shane said, no, what I mean is that if they come out similar, you usually choose the cheaper bottle. Oh, right. Why pay more for something that's essentially the same as the more expensive one? I mean, I wouldn't. Why do you think I'd buy Milwaukee's Best instead of Budweiser? Well, as my regular everyday drinker. Well, I can get Milwaukee's Best Ice for $15.99 a 30-pack. Right? $15.99 a 30-pack. And Budweiser is going to cost way more than that for the same amount of beer. Is it that much better? No. If it's even better. Now, you see what I mean? If it's better. Do I like Budweiser? Yeah. Do I love it? I wouldn't say I love it. I just got into controversy because I said it wasn't filth. You know, you get these people making reviews and they say things that are ridiculous. So that undermines their credibility. You know, oh, I drank Budweiser, it tastes like sewage. It's like, no, it didn't taste like sewage. You're just trying to get some cheap laughs and it's working, right? I like the Milwaukee's Best of, say, 2 years ago better than the new lager. Wait a minute. Oh, the old 4.3%. And that was okay to me. I like the new 4.8. I like the 4.8. It's got a little more body and character. So I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they jacked it back up. I wish they would go back to the old 4.6% Rolling Rock because I think 4.4 is a little too low. Now, Staunch Risk says, if I wanted to support an enterprising company with a good corporate culture, I might pay more for a competitive product. Okay. Hey, why not? Why not buy what you like, right? And if you favor a company, why not support them, right? I can go along with that. Even though I probably wouldn't do it, I go along with it. Yeah, the old 4.3 reminded me of Bushwick, which I love. Okay, that makes sense. But they felt like it wasn't strong enough. And then they made a disastrous mistake with the ice and they jumped it to 6.9, which everybody just, well, some people liked it, but most people just were angry about it. So they very quickly went back to 5.9 and we all said, right, good move. Okay, well, enough jibber jabber. This was to me, a fascinating taste challenge. Because it worked out exactly the way I predicted. I was laying in bed last night thinking, or it might have been yesterday morning before I got up thinking, I bet you I know how that's going to pan out, right? Like, I think I know how it's going to pan out. And it did exactly, basically the way I predicted. And I think I know how the early times is going to pan out, and I just described it. So, yeah. I mean, look how much redemption I've got left. I mean, I can do, what, 50 taste challenges with this much whiskey? I think I could do 50 taste challenges. Okay, well, anyway, enough of that. I have to start uploading a video review, and then I got to do a video. Got to, right? Like, I have to do that, right? But it's from Dogfish Head, and it's that Burton, or Burton, whatever you call it. Oh my goodness, that thing is so strong in the alcohol, but I bet it's a beautiful tasting product. Woo! Later, people. Have a great Sunday and a fantastic week. Be safe now.